what we have here is the factory electrical and vacuum troubleshooting manual. Super excited about this, guys. It's got absolutely everything you'd ever want. All the connector pinouts, wiring diagrams galore. I've made some copies of the pages that we need. Let's pop the hood and see if we can get the truck running. So this right here is the pinout of the harness where it plugs onto the PCM, and this is connector 202. So this right here is the bulkhead connector, I believe. That is right down here. This guy here. It's connector 202M based on that manual. And you can see the wiring right down there. Yeah, it ain't looking great. So we're going to start by just removing some of this stuff so I can hopefully get that harness, you know, above fender level and I'm not laying down in here trying to repair it. And I'll just take my DVOM and start doing a ohm test between this connector on the PCM and that connector over there, and we'll just see what we get. Also, why does it look like this other connector is held on by Tyvek house wrap tape? We'll look at that later. Little change of scenery today. I've got Red stuffed in the garage here with all the kids' junk and the dog, because every time we go to work on this thing, it's either 827 degrees outside, it's dark, or it's raining. Every single time. Now, a few of you might be thinking, wait a second, didn't you put up a shop? Yes, I did, but no, we're not working in there yet. Unfortunately, we're still in the garage because we've got some issues going on with the power company down there. Long story, we'll get to that later. But I thought to myself, you know what? What if we put the truck in the garage where we have a ceiling, no rain, artificial light, we can work at night. And most importantly, when it's way too hot outside, we got a window air conditioner. Does it get much better than that? And then sometimes you're working on the truck and you get a phone call, next thing you know you end up at a garage sale. But hey, I got this sweet tombstone welder for $100. Can't go wrong there. I've had this truck for way too stinking long now to not have it running. It's irritating the heck out of me. So last time I was working on this, before I left to go buy that welder, I got all the junk removed in this area. The fuse panel is somewhat loose, it's still kind of retained by the mount. The airbox is out, we've got some more breathing room. I found another chewed up wire. That just goes to the vacuum something or other. I don't know what it is. So without further delay, we're going to get this connector up here where we can see it. Same thing with that bulkhead connector 202. Get it up here and start doing a pinout test. Do we have continuity from the PCM to that bulkhead connector? And if we do, we're good to go. If we don't, we got a bad spot in that wire from those dang old mice. Well, I've got the connectors here up in the open, and believe it or not, all that junk cleaned right out of there. There's absolutely no damage to that wiring. Blew it all out with compressed air and it all looks perfect. So that's good news. So I printed out this troubleshooting guide, and of course the font is microscopic. But if I zoom in with the camera, it's bigger and clearer than in person. So you can see there we start with crank, no start, drop down to, does the wait to start light come on? No, it doesn't. So we follow no down, and that brings us to no power to the PCM or the PCM is bad. So we drop down from there. I don't think this has got a programmer or a chip. I haven't seen one anywhere. So we're going to go over and check fuse 22 under the hood, which I believe we've already done. But after you get to that point, you can see the next step is checking the red wire at the PCM for 12 volt power. So we're going to have to plug stuff back together to do that. Let me go ahead and get everything buttoned back up, and we'll start going through this process. Also, side note, when your dog won't quit smelling the underside of your truck and keeps crawling around and is super excited about it, that's a good sign there's critters living in your truck somewhere. Fuse 22 is apparently this one here. Power and power. So we've got power at fuse 22 and power through fuse 22. Now the next step on our handy dandy sheet here says to check the red wire at PCM for 12 volts power. If I flip over to my wire diagram here, this is the description and this is the pinout for the PCM. Power input, red, pin 71. Wow, that was pretty handy. Should be this pin right here. Well, now I feel like an idiot. This guy here that I thought was the PCM is actually the injector driver module. The PCM is that other connector down here in this hole right next to the bulkhead connector. So let's pull that back off. So now that I have the correct connector in hand, the pin that we're looking for is number 71. It's the third row down, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over from the bolt that tightens the connector to the PCM. And check this out. We've got power. No bueno. Because the next thing after that goes down to test PCM diode with DVOM. Okay, that's not so bad. But if that is good, the next one is replace PCM with a known good unit. Shoot. Well, I think the PCM diode is actually right here in the fuse panel. There's a diode right here, and well, the cover just says 12 diode. Let me figure out what the heck that diode does, make sure that's actually the PCM diode, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I got my multimeter here, and I gotta go to the diode setting, which is the little arrow with the plus sign thing there, diode. So when we test the diode, we get open on one side, which is correct. Flip it around, and we should get about 0.5 volts, which is exactly what we get. Well, this is not good news for this truck. The next step is replace PCM with known good unit and start test again. Well, I know where there's a 97 F250 with the 7.3 turbo diesel. Maybe I could borrow that PCM for an hour or two and see if she'll blow smoke. Alright, a couple more thoughts on this, guys. So, like I said, stuff off the internet, I don't love it. It might be helpful, but you never know. I was flipping through that factory manual I got over there, checking to see how the power diode and the PCM fuse, the relay, all that works together. You just kind of look at the wiring diagram, and I realized there's two power wires that go to the PCM, and they're both red. There's another one, pin 97. So 71 and 97 are both red, and they're both powered to the PCM. However, the thing we printed off the internet just said the power wire. Well, guess what? There's two. Anyway, that one's got power as well. So that got me thinking back a couple steps earlier on this flow chart, where no power to the PCM. It says to check the fuse under the hood for power, or to check for a loose chip or programmer on the PCM. There's a good chance this thing could be chipped. I know they were pulling some big trailers with it. The guy before hauled the dump trailer with his Mini X in it. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's pull this PCM out and take a look at the back of it. Also, I'm a little suspicious because if you recall, this thing was wrapped in house wrap Tyvek tape to the PCM, which is just weird. Here's the PCM. I already took the nuts off, and well, it's not coming. A little persuasion. Just gently prying on her. Nothing crazy, just can we get this thing, I mean, why is it stuck is what I'm saying. There we go. I don't know, maybe because it's been in there for 30 years. There we go. Yeah, this thing retains it. It's not just some cute little gasket. This actually retains the PCM. Once I looked a little closer, I just had to pull harder on it and it started coming out. So we're just gonna wiggle it out of there. And they say you might have to lower the inner fender. Well, fortunately mine, if you remember, this is the fender that's rotted off the truck. So it's already sagging. And yeah, I think I can pull right out of there. There we go. It's a free. Let's get that out of there and see if it's got a chip. Duct tape all over the back of it. Yeah, she's been chipped all right. Oh, now that I flip it over, look at that. Napa Reman, installed October 22nd, 2013. I can feel something protruding. I mean, I know it's chipped. This duct tape is like hermetically sealed on there. Holy cow. This was the good stuff. Not that cheap dollar store junk. And there we have it. She is most definitely chipped. Oh, it's a Diablo Sport. This chip could be cooked, so I'm gonna leave it. Oh, isn't that cute? Little devil horns on top of it. Let's leave this chip off because it could be cooked. We'll plug in the PCM with no chip and see. But it also was a Napa reman, so it could be junk. So we got the PCM reinstalled. By that I mean the connector's hooked up and it's sitting on top of the fuse box. Let's go turn this key and see if we've got a wait to start light. Here goes nothing. Clutch down, which is in neutral. We got a wait to start light. The tach should bounce, and really, hopefully it just fires up. Tach is not bouncing. Try that again. Which, to be fair, that wait to start light, I know some tuners will knock that out and it won't even show up as a wait to start. So that tuner might be okay. It might not be shorted out, but we were chasing the wrong half of this flow sheet because of it. So now let's start over. Crank, no start. Does wait to start light come on? Yes, it does. Does the tach move while cranking? No. Bad CPS wiring harness. Place CPS with forward international part. Test wiring harness. Oh, okay. Every single time I crank this, I blow more junk out of the tailpipe. Let me show you how handy this thing is because, well, you can see the front of the engine. Yeah, there's no room in there. And if you absolutely did not have a clue, which, let's be real, I don't have much of a clue because I haven't spent too much time working on a 7.3 before. I've done the glow plugs under the valve covers and that nonsense, but I've never gotten down in here and messed up front. So anyway, let's just say we had no idea where to find this thing at. Well, you come down here to, where was it? There we go. Camshaft position sensor. It's in the front of the engine. C144 is the connector. And then you see this here, page zone. Go to page 151, and then it's 9F4. Here we go. 151.9. Go F, we're going to go over to 4, and what do you see there? C144, cam position sensor. Whoop! Now, forward, that doesn't help out a ton because you got to pull that here on top of the rad. But you can see it's probably down underneath the alternator. This right here, that's the camshaft position sensor. This end here, there should be a wiring harness coming off of it. There's nothing there. But the weird thing is the connector, the part that would actually go on the sensor, is gone as well. So I don't know if the previous owner unplugged it when they were screwing with this and then lost it, dropped it, kept it, threw it away. I don't know, but it's not here is what I'm saying. So I already knew the mice chewed off the coolant temp sensor here. No big deal. I don't know what happened on top of the alternator. Things are chewed, stabbed, eaten. I don't know. But then if you also look down here, I think this wire harness here is what goes down to the camshaft position sensor. There's a, oh, I think it's the over temp. I think it's another coolant sensor down there. It's also chewed off, and then the wire harness just plain ends. Like I said, there's no connector. So that's why she ain't starting. I just got back from AutoZone, which happens to be my least favorite of all part stores. However, they had this in stock. Little pigtail for the crank sensor. Question is, which wire is which? Because the factory wires are different colors! So what I've done is just plucked it straight up at the top of the motor, and hopefully I can take this very short pigtail. I mean, it was $33 or something stupid. You could have gave me more than 8 inches of wire. But anyway, I'm going to take that, attach it right at the end of this pigtail, feed that back down there, plug it into the crank position sensor, sorry, the cam position sensor. I'm not going to worry about the water. Let's just start without the water temp. And then we'll go turn the key, see what happens. Alright, please excuse the crude drawing, but on Riff Raff Diesel, I discovered the factory connector is light blue goes to pin A, brown and white goes to pin B, dark green goes to pin C. On the new connector, you can see we've got black and white, black and yellow for ABC. So here we have them soldered up, and you kind of got to really stare at these wires, but I guess this one here was light blue. Kind of looks like it right here above that idler pulley. So like I said, light blue now goes to black and white. The brown and white here in the middle now goes to black, and the dark green, that one there, goes to yellow. I've got heat shrink down here. I'm going to slide it over, shrink it up, plug it in, twist the key. Well, still no start, but I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Let me zoom in and do it again. The tack bounces. So that means it's getting the camshaft sensor. Let's find our flow chart. Go down it again. Okay, from the top, crank no start. Does wait to start light come on? Yes. Does tack move while cranking? Yes. Smoke from tailpipe? No. I'm going to say no because when I look over here, it's not hazy whatsoever. So let's go back to smoke from tailpipe. No. Crankcase oil level full. It is. Fuel and fuel bowl. I don't know. So before I get too carried away in this no fuel issue, I thought I should check the oil level right here in the reservoir for the high pressure oil pump. There's a plug right here behind the upper radiator hose to remove, and I'm going to see if we can get this on film here. See that? Yeah, you can see the bottom of the reservoir. There's no oil in it. Oil level should be within an inch of the top. So we're going to put some oil in there. My understanding is that the oil pump seals to the timing cover. I don't know. Anyway, if the seal between there is bad, it can slowly leak down. Well, this thing's been sitting for, I don't know, a decade. So there's a good chance the oil leaked out, and sure enough, if there's no oil in the high pressure oil pump reservoir, if you don't know, the 7.3 Powerstroke actually uses oil pressure to fire the injectors. So, no oil in the reservoir, it's not going to fire. Even though we pulled the dipstick and it's completely full. I think this will self-prime. I don't know, I'm not going to crank it that long now knowing that it's dry. I'm just going to put a funnel in there, fill it up with some Rotella, and we'll see if it'll start. So I think this holds about a quart. Didn't have any 1540, so this 1030 around my skid steer is going to have to do. See oil in there. Huh, weird. If you guys can see the bubbles in the oil there, you can tell it's just below the top of that reservoir. I don't know if there's any diesel in either one of these tanks. It's got the rear and the front tank. My plan is to just use the rear tank only. The first reason is, well, you see that jaggedy sheet metal thing hanging down with that red wire running across it? Yeah, that's the tank strap. The other one's about as bad, so since it's only held in by half of one tank strap, we're not going to use the front one. The second reason we're going to use the back one is, look at it. It's poly. There's no rust inside that thing. So we're going to go all in with this rear tank that it's going to be good. I don't know if the tank selector valve up here under the cab works or not. Don't really care. We'll get to that later. For now, I'm going to flip the switch in the cab to rear. I put 5 gallons of diesel in this back tank, so we know there's fuel in there, and we'll just go from there if it doesn't start. So let's hop in the cab finally and twist that key again. Okay, well, I just walked over here from filming a short in the cab to see all this garbage. Man, I really hope I got that on film. All this crap shooting out of the tailpipe. Well, what do you think? Do we have a fuel leak? Well, there you go. Big Red runs again. I could not be happier. We're going to cut this video right here, get it uploaded so you guys can see it, and then I'm going to dive right into fixing what appears to be a giant fuel leak. So that'll be interesting. I don't even care about that right now because, man, it runs. Guys, thank you so much for watching this series. If you want to continue to see the work on this truck, please subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any videos. I'll see you in the next one.